I never thought one ordinary day could transform into the turning point of my entire life. Looking back now, I can still feel the way my chest tightened and my footsteps slowed when I reached that doorway, the heavy air brushing against my skin as though it were warning me about what lay ahead. My name is Emily Carter, and this is the story of how walking into a single room became the moment that shifted my entire world, a moment that forced me to reevaluate who I was, who I wanted to be, and what it really meant to face the truth. It began on a quiet Sunday afternoon in Chicago. The city was humming with its usual rhythm, cars rushing down Michigan Avenue, people clutching their coffees, and hurrying to places I would never know. I had just finished brunch with my best friend, Olivia, who had been trying to talk me into signing up for a new photography class. I loved photography, but I never had the courage to put myself out there, to risk being seen in ways I couldn't control. Olivia was the opposite, bold, confident, and endlessly encouraging. She hugged me goodbye outside the cafe, her scarf fluttering in the crisp wind, and said, "Em, don't let fear keep you from walking into the rooms where your future is waiting." At the time, I laughed and rolled my eyes, thinking she was just being poetic. Little did I know her words would echo in my mind just a few hours later. When I arrived home, my phone buzzed with a message from my brother, Daniel. He asked if I could meet him at our late father's office downtown. The request surprised me, because the office had been locked up for nearly 2 years since Dad passed away. None of us had dared to touch his things. Our father, Robert Carter, had been a respected architect, the kind of man who designed buildings that seemed to touch the clouds. But he was also a man of mystery, someone who kept secrets locked away in his silence. We loved him, but sometimes we felt like we never fully knew him. I hesitated before replying, unsure why Daniel suddenly wanted me there. He told me that the property managers were finally clearing out the floor, and we had one last chance to collect anything personal. Something inside me tightened at the thought of walking back into that space, but I agreed. The building was only a 15-minute drive, but every block I passed seemed to stretch longer than it should. The gray stone structure loomed against the skyline as I parked. I remembered holding my dad's hand as a child when he would bring me here on weekends, letting me sketch beside his desk while he worked late. I remembered the way the golden afternoon light would spill through the tall windows, illuminating the blueprints scattered across his table. The memories were bittersweet, like a melody I could almost hear but couldn't fully catch. Daniel was waiting for me at the entrance, his hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. He was older by 3 years, always the more pragmatic sibling. He greeted me with a nod rather than a hug, as though the weight of what we were about to do left no space for casual affection. Together, we signed in with security and rode the elevator up to the 15th floor. The doors opened with a chime, revealing the familiar hallway lined with frosted glass. My steps slowed as we approached the office door with our father's nameplate still gleaming. Robert Carter, architect. My heart pounded in my chest, and for a second, I wasn't sure I could go in. But Daniel turned the key, pushed the door open, and motioned me forward. I walked into that room, and everything changed. At first glance, it looked exactly as it had the last time I saw it. Shelves stacked with heavy books, rolls of drafting paper tucked into corners, and his desk standing like a monument in the center. Dust danced in the sunlight streaming through the tall windows, making the room feel frozen in time. But as my eyes roamed, I noticed something different. The bottom drawer of his desk was slightly ajar, just enough for me to see a corner of a leather-bound notebook peeking out. "Daniel," I whispered, pointing to it. He crouched down, pulled the drawer fully open, and lifted out the notebook. Its cover was worn, the leather cracked with age, and my father's initials were embossed on the corner. My pulse quickened. Dad had never been the kind of man to keep a diary, at least not that we knew of. Daniel opened the book carefully, and we skimmed the first page. To our astonishment, it wasn't just sketches or notes about architecture. It was filled with letters addressed to us, letters he had written over the years but never shared. My hands trembled as I flipped through the pages, seeing my name written at the top of some, Daniel's on others. It was like uncovering a hidden map of his heart. The first letter I read was dated the year I turned 10. In it, Dad wrote about how proud he was of my creativity, how he saw something in me that reminded him of his own mother, a painter I never got the chance to meet. He wrote about his fears too, admitting that he sometimes worked late not because he had to, but because he didn't know how to come home and express his feelings. Tears blurred my vision as I realized he had loved us more deeply than he ever managed to show. Daniel read silently beside me, his jaw tightening as he turned pages. For the first time in years, I saw his eyes glisten. My brother, who had always been composed and steady, suddenly looked like the little boy who had once cried when Dad missed his soccer game. The letters went on for over a decade, capturing moments we had forgotten, explaining things we never understood. He wrote about why he pushed us so hard, why he seemed distant at times, and how he hoped we would someday forgive him for the moments he failed. Each page was a revelation, peeling back layers of the man we thought we knew. But the final section of the notebook held something even more startling. Tucked into the back pocket was an envelope with my name scrawled across it in his handwriting. My fingers shook as I opened it. Inside was a key and a folded piece of paper. The note read, "Emily, if you're reading this, it means I never had the courage to tell you in person. This key belongs to a studio on the west side. It's yours now. Use it to create. Don't let fear stop you the way it stopped me." I gasped, clutching the paper to my chest. A studio? For me? I had always dreamed of having my own space to work on photography, to develop my art, but I had never imagined my father believed in me enough to set that dream in motion. Daniel placed a hand on my shoulder, his voice soft. "He believed in you, Em. More than he ever said." In that moment, everything shifted. All the resentment I had carried for his absences, all the questions that haunted me after he passed, it all melted into something new. I felt connected to him in a way I never had while he was alive. The room that had once been just his office had transformed into the bridge between who I was and who I was meant to become. Over the next weeks, Daniel and I spent hours together sorting through his belongings, reading every page of the notebook and reminiscing about our childhood. For the first time since Dad's funeral, we weren't just siblings bound by grief. We were partners in rediscovering the man who raised us. The more we uncovered, the closer we became. Eventually, I visited the studio. It was a modest loft with tall windows and brick walls, filled with empty shelves and the faint smell of sawdust.